Hello and welcome to the Analyst by Vajiram and Ravi dated 24th October 2025. Here we have taken up some important news articles that have featured in the Hindu and Indian Express newspaper, New Delhi edition. We have segregated our discussion into two parts, that is analysis and simplified. In analysis section, the first topic is related to the unemployment situation in India. In this article, we will be looking at some key highlights, finding of some recent reports. We will be also looking at the causes behind such situation in India. We will be looking at government initiative and a brief way forward. Further, in the second article, we will be focusing on climate change negotiation at the global level, where India is being considered to take a lead, where countries like USA and EU have failed to perform their duties. The topic for simplified sections are listed here. So let us begin our discussion. So let us start today's discussion with the first news article, that is jobs crisis is governance crisis. Now in this article, it has been highlighted that youth unemployment rate is thrice the national average unemployment rate. So national average unemployment rate hovers between 8 to 9%, and according to this news article, the youth unemployment rate is 3 times of this rate. Furthermore, this article highlights that government, which is single largest employer in the country, has not filled lakhs of vacancies, which is again compounding to the effect or the landscape of unemployment in India. Another important finding of this article is that conventionally we feel that unemployment issue is an issue of social, economic or individual crisis. However, in this article, this has been highlighted that apart from governance crisis, unemployment also pertains to national security related issues and crisis. Why we have taken up this article? Because of the mentioning of syllabus GS paper 1 and 3, that is population and associated issues and development and employment. So, before moving any further, try to understand what is unemployment. The basic definition is the percentage of population which is able plus willing to work, able to work and willing to work, but not getting the paid job or the employment opportunity. Okay, so proportion of population which is able and willing to work but not getting any job, what we call is unemployment rate. Now, why this is a matter of concern? Because of the very familiar concept of demographic dividend. We know that more than 60% of population that lies in the bracket of the working age population, that is 15 to 59 years of age. Now, more than 60% of population is lying in this bracket and most of them are unemployed. So what we consider as demographic dividend would become a demographic disaster if this rate persists and this rate continues. Now there are discrepancies in the evaluation and calculation of unemployment rate also, because you all know India is having informal character of economy and most of the job are in the informal sector. Informal means you are not being given the social security net. You are mostly employed in a temporary kind of job, contractual kind of job. So basically, the data collection and calculation becomes a task, and that is why while government and several other data will show you that unemployment rate is 8 to 9%, some international agencies and some national institution, they have shown that unemployment rate is up and above 17 to 25% range. So that is what the confusion related to unemployment, but the matter of fact is unemployment is there. Now, moving ahead, let us understand the scenario. What is the status? And we are taking cues from the article itself. Now, in this graph, you can see the unemployment rate is hovering between 5 to 6%, 5 to 5.5%. But since 2020, post-COVID year, it is growing. And it has reached to 9.2%. Now, In this article, it has been highlighted that there are several vacancies because as I told you, that article says that government is the largest employer, but there are several sectors like Kendriya Vidyalayas and Navodaya Vidyalayas. There are 12,000 posts vacant in various categories. Similarly, 25% faculty positions are vacant in the central universities also. So again, imparting education itself is a basic pillar of the governance delivery. And you can see here the education itself and the education sector itself is struggling with these vacancies, and these vacancies are related to the government recruitment. Further, if we will go to the R&D sector, we already know that our expenditure on R&D is itself very low, and that is a problem. It is less than 1% of the GDP. Compounding to that, we have a huge number of vacancies in premier research institutes like Satish Dhawan Space Center. 25% posts are vacant, and so is true with the CSIR, where 40% scientist posts are vacant. Moving further, healthcare. Again, a governance issue. 70% is specialist post in the CHCs, common health centers, 20% doctor position in rural healthcare, and 2 out of 5 faculty post in AIIMS are lying vacant. Further, moving to the next imperative that this article highlights, that apart from the conventional notion that it is more of a governance issue, health, education and all those things, it is now touching to the security sector also. Because in light of the recent airplane accident, the recent finding by parliamentary committee has highlighted that 1 out of 2 posts is lying vacant in DGCA, that is Director General of Civil Aviation. Further, if you will just consider safety category, there are 1.5 lakh vacancies in railways. Safety categories, not all. Moreover, this article also highlighted that for 65,000 posts that has been published recently, more than 2 crore applicant applied. Such is the unemployment rate in India. Further, if you will go to the premier investigation agencies, NIA has 30% post lying vacant, and the security of the borders and the paramilitary forces, more than 1 lakh vacancies are lying idle. Moving further, the fiscal administration, both in direct taxes and indirect taxes in both the department, income tax and custom, 26% and 34% vacancies are lying idle. Thus, again, compounding the issue, and this is what this article is about, that government is being the largest employer, is not filling the vacancies and just creating a gap which is kind of detrimental to the governance as well as the security of India. Now, why such situation is there? Why unemployment is there? When we listen to the news like we are growing leaps and bounds, our GDP growth is steady, it is fastest among the countries, we are moving towards a $5 trillion economy and all those things. Why unemployment is there? So first reason is the structural shift without job creation. Now, what is a structural shift? India is primarily an agrarian economy. We know that most of its population is employed there. Roughly around 45 to 46% of its population is employed there. Now, with rising level of literacy, education and opportunities and distress, both push and pull factors, this population, this 45% of working population is moving out of agriculture. But creation of job is not matching up with this new demand. So more people are leaving agriculture, coming to non-farm sector, but non-farm sector is not producing the requisite number of jobs, thus creating a gap. So according to this economic survey of 2024-25, we need to create 7.85 million of non-farm jobs till 2030 in order to reap this demographic dividend. Even if not reaping the demographic dividend, in order to accommodate this population, we need 7.85 million non-farm jobs every year till 2030. Second reason is, since we have talked about the 45% population employed, now there is a problem of disguised unemployment and seasonal. Seasonal unemployment in agriculture, you know that after sowing season and harvesting season, most of the laborers are free and they are in search of new job, and there is a break. What is disguised unemployment? Disguised unemployment is a very simple concept. When you are employing more than what is necessary. So let's say you require one person to do the job, but due to lack of job, there are 6-7 persons who are contributing to the same field. Now their productivity is zero, negligible, because even if you will remove those 6-7 people, it is not going to affect productivity because the requirement is one. And this is what the case in agriculture. In a small parcel of land, huge number of people are employed, and this is causing the disguised unemployment. So on paper, 45% people are employed, but when you will calculate their productivity, their income, you will find that they are nothing better than unemployed person. Third is lag in manufacturing and infrastructure development. Now understand this. The GVA contribution of agriculture is roughly around 17 to 18% in the GDP, while it employs around 45% of population. Now compare it with the manufacturing sector, where GVA is roughly around 12%, but it only employs 6% of the population. Again, a sector which is considered as a job creating sector or a pole of job creation is not acting in the same manner. Next is the skill deficit and education employment mismatch. Now according to the Skill Survey 2024 Skill India report, only 51% of the youth are employable. Out of total available workforce, only half is employable due to lack of vocational training. And how many of them? According to economic survey, only 2.2% of the working population is having formal vocational training. Rest are informal, and only 51% are employable. Next is the rise in population. We have just seen that our population, that this working age population has crossed 60% mark, and by 2030 it is going to reach 65%. Now this rapid growth in population has not matched with the rapid growth in the job creation, as we have seen in the first point itself. Next is a major chunk, that is female labor force participation, has been low consistently. Now recent PLFS survey has highlighted that there is a rise roughly around 42%, but once you will compare it with the male labor force participation, which is roughly around 77%, you will see the stark difference, that nearly the women participation is roughly half of that of male participation, and that is why there is unemployment. Next is informal and low quality jobs. So 57.3% people are self-employed, and roughly 18% are employed as unpaid household laborers. So this informal nature of economy, there is no social security net. This creates hurdle of data management also, and also it kind of acts as a detrimental factor behind people, the job seeker people. So if a person is ready and willing to do a job, but the quality of job, the quality of work that he or she is getting is not suiting his criteria or his choices, and that's why they are keeping themselves away. They are happy to remain unemployed rather to be exploited. So this is another cause, the informal nature and low quality of job. Then, as the news is all about, declining public sector recruitment is another factor. And lastly, there are new regional and social barriers related to culture, language. So people who are moving to the growth poles, to the developmental centers or the industrial centers are facing difficulty, hurdle in assimilating in that environment. So many a times local will protest, local will create hurdles for the outsider to get job. Many a times this huge influx creates urban problem to the destination region itself. So all in all, this becomes a factor which kind of act as counterproductive. And due to lack of the movement, migration and assimilation, people are sitting idle and unemployed. Moving further, how does it impact? So we have talked about impact related to individual. First thing is loss of income. Then it will take a toll on the psychology of the overall health well-being of the individual. Next is the poverty trap. So you'll be in perpetual trap, low income, low expenditure. Again, the human capital of the next generation will be poor because you have no money to spend, you have no money. And why to talk about next generation? You yourself cannot spend more on your skill upgradation. So you are perpetually being unemployed, and you are kind of in a poverty trap which you will fail to breach. Then your skill erosion will be there because time is passing by and your skill set is lying idle. Maybe the new demand of the market would not match your skill set. Then comes the migration, increase in migration and resultant social insecurity. Similarly, at societal level, there would be unrest, crime rate. Then there would be pressure on political parties to take populist measures because population will demand, the source region will demand job, the destination region will demand governance, and this will result into the populist measures. Further, in long term, there will be human capital loss on economy. When you will be having less money, you will be spending less, so overall demand will dip. Then you will be missing on demographic dividend, it will become a disaster. Then dependency ratio will rise because more people are sitting idle, so those who are working will face the brunt of it, and dependency ratio will go up. Further, there would be fiscal burden on government to provide welfare measures and social security net. Lastly, as this article highlights a new dimension, that is security, lack of vacancies, or you can say the lack of absorption in these investigating agencies, in paramilitary forces, in armed forces, is going to directly impact the security aspect of the country, and somewhere due to the less number of people, you are going to face the security lapses. So government has come up with several plans, several initiatives, and you can read about them and you can find that they are mainly focusing on skill development as well as pumping money into infrastructural development. But situation remains same. Situation has improved a bit, but not at the pace which is required. So several government initiatives related to skill and infrastructure has come up, but they have not created the number of jobs that is required to sustain the demographic dividend. Finally, what could be done? First thing is investing and promotion on labor intensive manufacturing like textile sector, leather industry, etc., where the job creation, the prospect of job creation is more. So we should be focusing more on labor intensive manufacturing industries. Further, we should include the private sector to frame the curriculum as per their need and demand, and we should align education and skill training as per the market demand. Moving further, Women workforce participation we need to improve by providing quality job. Further, we need to provide some social security services like crèche facilities and safety at the workplace, the transportation. We need to improve the work environment in order to incentivize women to work in that environment. So we need to work upon that. Most importantly, we need to boost rural non-farm employment through food processing industries, rural industrial corridor. We can provide such facilities in rural area itself to stop the disguised unemployment. Secondly, the migration itself. Further, modernization of agriculture, which we call the mechanization of agriculture and using modern technique so that productivity goes up. And with the mechanization, the population, the disguised unemployment will also be addressed, because now you will clearly have this mandate, or you have this understanding that now there is no need to sit idle here in the same field. So you will go out and you will find a job. Next is public investment in infrastructure. Now Niti Aayog says, one estimation says that for every 1 crore of investment, we can produce 8 direct job and 32 indirect job. And that is why if you will see mission Gati Shakti project and all these road projects, infrastructural project, we are focusing more on this because of the capacity to boost job landscape, to provide jobs. Then ease labor mobility. So governments can sit together with an oversight of central government. Several state government can sign a memorandum of understanding so that a conducive environment can be provided to the migrating labor force and migrating working population, so that their harassment can be reduced as well as their influx can be managed in a proper manner. Next is the data. For everything, every policy aspect, you need a reliable data. It cannot be like one data is saying 8%, one data is saying 15%, another data came next day which is talking about 20%. You cannot frame your policy like that. You should have a verifiable, transparent set of data on which you can work upon. Further, you need to encourage entrepreneurship and digital economy, and we have seen the potential in gig economy where lakhs of jobs have been created. Now we have to streamline this in order, you can say, a short-term solution. It can employ more number of people with the investment in digital economy, and encouraging entrepreneurship will make people capable of having a respectful and dignified life. Here is the practice question based on the above discussion. Question is, a demographic dividend without jobs becomes a demographic disaster. Examine the statement in light of the India's employment landscape. Try to attempt this question in 250 words. So let us move on to the second topic of today's session, that is, should India take global leadership on climate change? Now, as COP30 in Brazil approaches, India faces a crucial question: whether it should take a lead in this meet or not. Whether it should take lead in overall climate change mitigation efforts or not. Because most of the Western countries have shown reluctance to take the lead. USA has already withdrew from this particular agreement, and China is also reluctant to take any lead further. Why we have taken up this topic? Because this is important from perspective of GS paper 3, that is conservation, environmental pollution and degradation. Now here in this article there is a debate about whether India should take a lead or not. We will be covering various aspects related to the climate change negotiations and the hurdles therein. Now, as we know, the COP21, it all started there in Paris Climate Agreement, and the focus was on the containing the temperature rise, because we understand climate change as the rising global temperature. So in the Paris Climate Agreement, the first thing that this entire world, 195 countries to be precise, they reached to a legally binding agreement. Now pay focus. This agreement is legally binding, not the targets. Okay, so they reached to a consensus that we should be limiting global, because we know that global average temperature is rising each and every year. So the target year is 2100, that is end of this century. And we are focusing that we will try to keep this rise below 2 degrees Celsius. Now, the ultimate aim is to target below 1.5 degrees Celsius. But with the recent pace and the zeal that countries are showing, this target is not going to be achieved. Whether we will discuss that in subsequent slides. Second thing was that we need to show cooperation, we need to assist countries to enhance resilience and adaptation to the climate impacts. The second target was this. And the third and most important thing, which became the bone of contention in all future meets or the conference of parties, was the financial flows. Because it was agreed that there is a common but differentiated responsibility. Common means the climate change is common. So global warming is going to affect each and every country in some or the other manner. So the common but differentiated responsibility. So the responsibility is common to protect environment, but the you can say intensity or the quantum is different. Why? Because some countries have historically polluted more than other countries. Take for example USA and India. India got independence in 1947 and its industrialization process started then. So it is hardly 70 years of time where India is polluting the environment. This is what is the stand of India, that we are nascent economy, we are just 70-year-old and the priority is economic growth. But you are polluting, your industrial revolution came 150 years back. So you are polluting or you have polluted it more. So you should take more responsibility than what we should be taking. So common responsibility that yes, we are agreeing, we all have to work, but differentiated. You have to do more because you have already polluted more. And this become bone of contention and this become the hurdle, major hurdle in all future agreement. So basically the aim was to contain the temperature rise, and how you will contain that? By GHG's emission, greenhouse gas emission. Okay, then capability, and for these two things you need funds. These three things were decided. Now in this, the Paris deal, India created some nationally determined contributions. It committed. Now these NDCs are not legally binding. These are voluntarily, they are volunteer, you can say, targets. So you are putting a target on yourself that I am going to contribute this much. So they are not legally binding. So what India declared, that it will reduce its emission intensity, that is the GHG emission per unit economic activity. So it will reduce whatever the level was in 2005, it will reduce 33 to 35%. Okay, this was the target till 2030. Then the 40% of total electricity generation from non-fossil renewable sources will be achieved in this time. Then an increase in forest cover to create an additional carbon sink of 2.5 to 3 billion tons will be achieved in this period, that is 15 years of time frame. But India again kind of updated its target in the Glasgow summit of COP26, which is commonly known as Panchamrit. 5 nectars that India again decided to contribute, that is NDCs, updated NDCs of India, for which India have set a target of 500 gigawatt of non-fossil energy capacity by 2030. Next is 50%. Earlier it was 40%. Now it is 50% by 2030. Total projected carbon emission by 1 billion ton by 2030. Okay. Then carbon intensity of the economy by 45% and achieving the target of net zero emission by 2070. This was the updated target. Now, why this article? Why India should take a lead? Why this demand has been rising? There are some reasons. India has already achieved two of its initial contribution. That is, India has achieved the 33% reduction in emission intensity back in 2019 itself. While recently in 2023, India achieved 43.8% of its total electricity generation from non-fossil renewable sources. So India is taking great strides toward, you can say, the application, practical application and delivery of its nationally determined contribution. No other country, you can say, has matched this level of the achievements or the national determined contribution. Secondly, India has, due to its transitional economy, because many developed nations accuse India that, especially India and China, that they are already developed and they always claim the status of developing economy. So India is kind of in a transition stage, and India acts as a leader of the developing countries and has vehemently raised the voice and demand of the developing countries time and again. It has opposed, it has led the delegation, it has led the dialogues regarding the climate change mitigation efforts, especially the finances. And that is why, in the absence of Western countries, in absence of USA, in absence of China, scientists, experts are looking at India that it will take a lead in climate change mitigation effort and this particular conference. Now, why there is a trouble, why there is a problem? I have told you the common but differentiated responsibility. Here in this chart, you can see that greenhouse gas emissions since 1850. Now, if you will consider this, the G20 countries have contributed or contributing consistently around 77% of all GHG emission even today. But if you will see the historical data, just compare it with India, 172 billion metric ton, whereas if you will see USA, 641 billion metric ton. China 437, European Union 418, and in this UK is not included. UK is 102 billion metric ton of carbon dioxide equivalent. It has already contributed. Now this is what the bone of contention. Now countries, developing countries like India and other developing countries in Southeast Asia, they talk about that it is important for us to have economic growth, because you have already achieved it. You have exploited the resources. You have done whatever you wanted to in last 150 to 100 years. Now you are stopping us from having economic growth. And you have already emitted, you have already polluted, which we are kind of historical injustice you have done, so you should be paying more. Plus, you have the capability. It is not just about your responsibility, you have done this, you have done that. It is about your capability. You are technologically ahead of us. You have better technologies. If you will see the Scandinavian countries, they have very good technologies to harness renewable energy. USA, if you will see the cutting edge technology related to any field. So these countries, they talk about, please give us the technology, please give us the fund. We will do whatever is required. But we need fund and we need technology, because we cannot hold our economic growth. So we need to have our economic growth, and in that economic growth we want to cut the emission, but we need technology. So the first hurdle is the financial disparities and climate finance, which has not came yet. So in the COP, if you will see, in COP itself, 2015, it was estimated $100 billion per year investment was required. Now, various estimates says that at present rate of growth, at present rate of pollution, we require more than $2 trillion every year, leave alone 100 billion. We require $2 trillion every year, but developed countries are reluctant to share their responsibility, and we just discussed that USA withdrew altogether that we are not responsible of giving any money to anyone. Then, as I told you, these NDCs are they are not legally binding. They have this non-binding character to them. So it is your own wish. What is your contribution? You can declare anything. So the platforms like UNFCCC, where these conferences are being held, they have become a platform where information is being gathered and disseminated. There is no accountability. You have made a target that I will reduce it by 30%. You have achieved or not, nothing is going to happen. So these are not legally binding commitments, and that's why the lethargy in the implementation. Next is the geopolitical tension and divergent interest. Now, again, I am reiterating, USA withdrew. Some time back, the president of Russia gave a very interesting statement that global warming is good for Russia because the Alaskan region, the higher latitude area, Siberian region will become ice free and we can go for the agriculture there. So it is good for Russia. So such irresponsible behavior by the major economic powers of the world like EU, USA, Russia is not taking world anywhere. And this divergent interest and tension is rising in the present scenario, and this climate change mitigation meetings and conferences, they have taken a backseat. A funny incident happened that we are talking about moving away from fossil fuels, and one of the latest conference was organized in Baku, which is an oil producing region. So you are discussing moving away from fossil fuel by sitting in an area which is responsible for fossil fuel production. So this is the level of seriousness and this is level of commitment. So national interests are prevailing over the global interest. Next is the scientific and technical challenge. So scientific community has time and again, I have already talked about the funding, that they are saying we require more than $2 trillion per year. Plus, scientists have also said that the recent targets that we have set, the recent mechanism that we are working upon is not sufficient to keep temperature below 2 degrees Celsius. It is going to be 2.7 degrees Celsius more than what it is today. So leave alone containing below 2 degree, it is going to be above 2 degree if we will be going with this pace only. So these are the hurdles in climate negotiations. They are impractical, unscientific, funds are not there, collaborations are not there, technology transfer is not there, time and again being motivated by national interest, and these are the reasons because of which climate negotiations are being held hostage of the whims and fancies of the developed economy mainly. Then there are challenges for India which are not different from what world is facing. First is, we have discussed it elaborately, that financial and technological barrier. Funds are not being given and technology is not being transferred. Second is the resource constraint. Just one example. Almost 18% of world population is living on almost 2.5% of world landmass. Now this itself is a burden on the existing land resources. So you want solar panels, where you will put solar park. You want windmills, where you will put them. Then water resource crunch is there, where you will put hydroelectric power plant. If you will go to Himalayas, you are disturbing the geology there. You are creating another problem of natural disaster. Okay, so these are the resource constraint that India is facing. Another thing is already discussed, that the conundrum, the debate between giving preference to development or the emission reduction. Again an issue. Then comes the last point, that is domestic policy alignment. Now, we have some domestic, if you will take the first three reasons, we have to align our domestic policies with that of the international climate change policies. And these things, the financial constraint, the resource constraint, the developmental imperatives, these are creating troubles in aligning the domestic policy with that of the global climate change policy or the mitigation measures. However, having said that, India is leading as a star, has taken great strides in achieving the targets in the field, in the domain of climate change mitigation measures. Name it International Solar Alliance, name it National Action Plan for Climate Change, name it moving away from the fossil fuel resources for electric power generator, name it the electric mobility. India is taking huge strides, and that is why the whole debate that should India be taking the lead or not. How we can address that? The answer is very simple. We need to have a mechanism where we can fix the accountability. Secondly, we need to have a climate finance mechanism as early as possible so as to incentivize those countries who are taking up these steps and measures. Plus technology transfer, again mandatory. We can go for the country to country bilateral negotiation to have these transfers. And lastly, the bilateral and minilateral cooperations can take place in the face of the failure of the UNFCCs, where 195 countries are not coming on the same page. So we can go for a small grouping to have certain common interest, and we can devise something which is useful for that pool of country, and we can deal with other developed countries so as to circumvent the troubles related to the multilateral platform. Now here is the mains practice question for you, that is, despite efforts, climate change negotiation and their implementation have remained elusive. Discuss. 150-word answer. Try to attempt this question. Moving further to the simplified section, the first article is How Do Monsoon Affect Tamil Nadu, featured in The Hindu, page number 12. And this news article talks about a very interesting phenomena which happened last year also and this year also. Now we all know that in winters, winters in northern hemisphere, the monsoon trough gets withdrawn. So monsoon trough lies somewhere in the Bay of Bengal. So withdrawal of monsoon, which we call. And in this season, we have this northeast trade winds prevailing because of the removal of this monsoon trough from the mainland India. Now this northeast trade winds, they are onshore for the Coromandel coast but offshore for rest of India. So rest of India, it doesn't receive rainfall, but due to being onshore in nature for the Coromandel coast, it comes with moisture and creates rainfall. Problem is not rainfall, problem is timing and the quantity and the global warming. Now what is happening? This rainfall is matching with the time of the rainfall, because a monsoon has not the withdrawal of monsoon is not completed yet. So still there is rainfall in the Kerala, the western coast. So the upper catchment is getting water from the southwest monsoon, while the lower catchment is going to the eastern coast, is going to get the rainfall from the northeast states, that is the winter monsoon. So both the catchments are getting water, and that is what the problem is, because this has created, along with the urban areas in the Tamil Nadu, mainly Chennai and other cities, coastal cities, what is happening, this asphalt road and this concrete pavements have created a trouble. So water runoff is high, there is no groundwater recharge, there is no, so drainage systems are getting choked and unleashing a significant health and environmental hazard due to the untreated wastewater getting onto the roads. It is not just the problem with this environmental health hazard, it is affecting the agriculture also. Because of the water logging, the plants are getting choked, and the newly planted seeds and plants are getting washed away due to this huge surface runoff. Further, this moisture is again compounding to or giving a conducive environment for disease and pests to grow. Further, this runoff is also taking up fertilizer and pesticides along with them, and what you have heard that eutrophication of water is taking place. Moving further, the stagnant water itself becomes a problem and becomes a breeding ground for various vector-borne diseases such as malaria and dengue, and zoonotic diseases also like Japanese encephalitis and scrub typhus. So these are the health impediments and agricultural impediment. Now there is another issue, infrastructure, because water table is growing up. It is coming up. Now it is impacting the foundation of various buildings. Now this is creating another set of infrastructural hazard, and which is pushing people away from their home because they have come into the hazard zone, and it is causing forced migration because of the tilting and sinking of various buildings. So these are the points that you should be aware of, because this is not just problem of Coromandel coast. The problem has been aggravated due to the character of the rainfall, and there is a very important dam, that is Mullaperiyar Dam. Now the upper catchment is getting water from the southwest monsoon, so it is already overflowing. Now lower catchment is getting water from the northeast monsoon. So if Tamil Nadu, Mullaperiyar Dam is in Idukki district, Kerala, but is managed by the Tamil Nadu government. So they have no other option but to open the barrage. Once they will open the barrage, the water will come into already swollen rivers. So it is going to be worsened than the last year. This is what the trouble is. So why we have taken up this topic? Because this is problem of every urban area, practically every urban area in India. And flash floods and this asphalt road pavement have created these issues in almost every part of India. So these are the pointers that you can use to enrich your answers while writing about the effect and impact of the urban flood or the flooding of any area. So we have segregated this into the impact of excess rainfall in urban area, agriculture sector, and public health. Moving further, the second news is PM Modi to participate in ASEAN meet virtually drops Malaysian travel plan. So PM Modi had a plan to visit to Malaysia, but recent update from Foreign Ministry has come up that he is going to participate in ASEAN meet virtually. He is not going to be there. Rather, Foreign Minister Mr. S. Jaishankar is going to represent him there. Now, recently, the main attraction of this news is the meeting, the probable, the assumption that if he will go to join this ASEAN meeting, he is going to meet President Trump of USA. But again, those assumptions are not coming to the reality. And again, like in Sharm el-Sheikh Convention, where Gaza Peace Treaty was signed, he was invited but was represented by Kirtivardhan Singh, Minister of State for External Affairs. So in this time also, this meeting remains elusive. So for your examination perspective, what is important is ASEAN, that is Association of Southeast Asian Nations, which was established by signing a treaty in 1967 in Bangkok, Thailand, and it has its secretariat in Indonesia's Jakarta. Now, the founding members, today it has 10 members, but founding members were Indonesia, Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, and Philippines. So these 5 countries were the founding members, while the latest entrant is Cambodia, which joined the grouping in 1999. Now, as a grouping, it is the largest trade bloc in the Southeast Asia, 4th largest trade partner of India as a group. And recently, from your perspective, what is more important is India's focus towards ASEAN and there are some pending initiatives between India and ASEAN countries, because in Southeast Asia and ASEAN countries are central to India's vision of Indo-Pacific. So there were initiatives which again India withdrew from. The one is RCEP. So apart from these 10 countries, major economies from Indo-Pacific regions were involved in this, including China, India, Korea, Japan, Australia and New Zealand, and combining around 3.5 billion of population and around $22.4 trillion of GDP if it would have been materialized. So India withdrew from it because of one very important reason of the trade deficit with ASEAN. So India imports more from ASEAN than what it exports. So that is why this comprehensive economic partnership created kind of hurdle which would have aggravated the situation of this trade imbalance. So that's why India withdrew. Apart from that, there are two very important projects that India is looking at, but the problem is both projects are delayed and need some intervention and some proactive approach to get completed. First is the Kaladan multimodal project. Kaladan multimodal project, and this is name of a river. So this project will start from the Kolkata port and will reach to the Sitwe port of the Myanmar. From there, through inland route on river Kaladan, it will reach to a place known as Paletwa. From there, it will connect the state of Mizoram through a land highway. Apart from that, there is one more important infrastructural project, that is IMT, India, Myanmar and Thailand road project, which is again, both these projects are delayed due to various reasons, due to various geopolitical constraints in Myanmar. If you can see in both the project, Myanmar is central to this, and since a long time Myanmar is facing military coup and political unrest. Moving further, there is an important news regarding 2006 Forest Rights Act, an important legislation from the perspective of vulnerable section, GS paper 2, and here in this, government has submitted its response regarding a plea in the Supreme Court, and government has defended the FRA. So there were amendment in FRA, that is Forest Right Act 2006. In 2012, there was an amendment which added few definitions, removed some definitions, given some permissions and all. In that regard, one plea was submitted to the Supreme Court, which accused the government that since the definition has been changed, the resource, you can say the utilization of resource and all those things have been commercially, and large scale exploitation has occurred in the forest area, which has disturbed the wildlife or the, you can say, the environmental sustainability. Now government has refuted this allegation and said that there is no report or suggestion or finding anywhere which suggests that the permission for allowing forest right title holders to meet livelihood has led to commercial and large scale extraction. So there is no proof. Further, the plea also questioned the authority of Parliament to legislate such rule, to which the government has said the constitutional and legislative issues the centre has submitted, that there were no grounds to doubt the competence of Parliament, the supreme lawmaking body of the country, to enact the historic legislation. Further, this plea also raised a very serious question, that Forest Right Act is in conflict with the Wildlife Protection Act and various measures, to which government said that it is not just about livelihood of the tribals, but also about the dignity of the forest dwellers. And it is nowhere, there is no proof that these acts, these rights are competing against the protection of the forest or the wildlife. So this was the crux of the news. From your perspective, the examination perspective, the Forest Rights Act, which is known as The official name is Scheduled Tribes and Other Traditional Forest Dweller Recognition of Forest Rights Act. And objective was to recognition of land rights, because since the British came, before British it was forest and the forest dwellers, so they were dwelling there, they were using the produce, they were using the resources, they were living there in harmony with the nature. But suddenly the economic angle came in, and Britishers kind of restricted the forest dwellers from various activities and kind of started exploiting the forest resources, and it continued after the independence. So the natives or the traditional forest dwellers, mainly tribes and non-tribals, both, they suffered. So this was a landmark legislation which recognized the rights to undo the historical injustice. Secondly, it also aimed to protect their livelihood because it was dependent on the forest produce. Thirdly, once you have recognized their land rights and their livelihood rights, you are empowering them by giving them choice of life they wanted. Now, types of right that it recognizes: the individual rights for an individual for ownership and access to land for cultivation and habitation; community, to use minor forest produce, grazing, access of water body, management and conservation; and community forest resource rights to protect, regenerate and manage forest sustainability. Now, who will be the person who will be given, how would you find a person that he is having right over these things? That a criteria that at least 3 generations, that is 75 years before 13th day of 2005, the date has been set that 2000, because this act came in 2006. So 2005 deadline. Before that, if 3 generations or 75 years you have lived there, you are forest dweller. Now the problem is the authorities to decide upon these rights. Gram Sabha is a good thing that you are empowering, you are decentralizing, but above Gram Sabha there are 2 more layers, that is subdivisional level committee which examines the resolution, and district level committee which gives the final approval. Now there is a huge delay and between these 3 tiers, and there is huge clutter in getting the rights between these 3 tiers. So these delays have created trouble for the proper implementation of forest right acts. Moving further, next news is that recently the Defense Acquisition Council, that is DAC, has cleared the system, the procurement of system worth rupees 79,000 crore for Army, Navy as well as Air Force. So various security forces and agencies and their mandate has been is an important part of your syllabus, and UPSC has been asking question based on various armaments that are in news and news related to defense sector. So we have covered this news. Defense Acquisition Council has cleared this, which was chaired by the Defense Minister Rajnath Singh, cleared 79,000 crore procurement plan, mainly for Army, the Nag missile system, which is anti-tank missile, high mobility vehicles and electronic intelligence system has been given principal approval. Further, for Navy, amphibious platform that is capable of dropping soldiers on the shores. So amphibious vehicle which can float in water as well as travel through some distance on land. So this has been the landing platform docks, LPDs have been approved, apart from the 30 mm naval surface gun and advanced lightweight torpedoes have been approved. Now apart from this, that government has said in a statement that it is not just related to the security and defense aspect, but will also help in peacekeeping, humanitarian assistance and disaster response mission. Because in recent Punjab flood, we have seen how amphibious vehicles have came to help to rescue people from the flood affected areas. So this has been this has been given, this statement has been given by the government that apart from the security, it is also going to help in the disaster response and other thing. For Indian Air Force, the long range target saturation destruction system and other related systems have been approved. Now, important term is that these have been given acceptance of necessity. So there is in principle approval, acceptance that yes, there is need of such things. So this has been given for the procurement of these platforms. Now, for your purpose, Defense Acquisition Council and Defense Procurement Board are important. One is headed by the Minister of Defense, another is headed by Defense Secretary. Now, where Defense Acquisition Council is entrusted with the in principle approval of the procurement, acceptance of necessity, as we have seen, categorize acquisition proposal, whether it is buy or make in India. So you will categorize the project into different categories, plus offset provision, technology transfer, field trial evaluation, all these being done by the Defense Acquisition Council chaired by Minister of Defense. While after this approval, the streamlining and execution of this approval is carried by the Defense Procurement Board. So members in both the committee, there are several members like Minister of State for Defense, Chief of Defense Staff, all three chiefs of Army, Defense Secretary, secretaries of various departments, Vice Chief of Defense Staff, Special Secretary and Member Secretary who is Deputy Chief of Defense Staff. So from your perspective, the most important thing is one is being chaired by Minister of Defense, other is by Defense Secretary. One is related to approval of acquisition, another is execution of acquisition. Okay, so that brings us to the last topic of today's session, that is Center asks CGI to recommend a successor. Now, judiciary is an important part of your GS2 syllabus, and Center has written a letter, basically a law ministry has written a letter to CGI of India to sought his recommendation for naming his successor. Now, why it is done? Because of the memorandum of procedure, where law ministry seeks the recommendation, and once CGI has recommended the senior most judge, the president will make the appointment. Now the senior most judge in line is Justice Suryakant, who is going to be the 53rd CGI of India. Now, we all know that Supreme Court has a strength of 34 judges, that is 33 judges plus one Chief Justice. This number was 31 till 2019, which was increased by Amendment Act, Supreme Court Amendment Act of 2019. And UPSC has already asked a question that which of the following has authority to increase the number of judges. So Parliament has authority through this Amendment Act. So in 2019, it has increased the number. Now, Chief Justice is appointed by the President, and after the consultation with such judges of Supreme Court and High Court as he deems necessary. Now, this consultation word became the cause of trouble, because the convention was the senior most judge was appointed as a CGI. But this convention was breached in 1973 with the appointment of A.N. Ray, and 77 with the appointment of Mr. M.U. Baig. These both appointments were made by superseding the senior most judge. Then came the second judge's case of 1993, and senior most judge of the Supreme Court will be appointed as the CGI became a norm. This was set in the second judge's case. Now, having talked about the second judge's case, we must look into all four important judges' case. So, first judge's case in 1982, the debate was where consultation is equivalent to concurrence or it is just exchange of view. So, we are, in simple terms, if I am consulting someone, it is just I am taking his or her view, or if I am consulting someone, it is binding on me. This was the debate. So in first judge's case, court says that it is just exchange of view. It is not binding in 1982. But in 1993, court said that it is concurrence. It is binding. Advice matter after consulting of two of his senior colleague, and Chief Justice will not give any advice. He will discuss it with two of his senior most colleague. Then only he will advise. Then came the third judge's case, where this was further refined, that consultation of plurality, this concept came. So earlier it was 2, now 4 senior most judges will be consulted, and plurality, on the basis of plurality, decision will be. So even if 2 judges will give adverse opinion, you cannot advise the president. So plurality should be there. So out of 4 judges, 3 judges should be giving you the concurrence or the advice to appoint someone henceforth. Fourth judge's case is more related to, because of this collegium system and the scrutiny and criticism of collegium system. The fourth judge's case came, and the government came up with the NJAC, National Judicial Appointment Committee, where executive became part of the judicial appointment. So judiciary was part, apart from that executive also became part. Now this was struck down in 2015 in the 99th and it struck down the 99th Constitutional Amendment Act of 2014, that is NJAC, and declared it null and void. So these are the 4 important judges' case, and by convention now, established convention, senior most judge is appointed as the CJI after the consultation of 4 senior most judges by the CJI. So that's all for the today's session. Stay tuned for more such updates. Thank you.